This is Logic versus Emotion podcast, where we seek meaning and connection in relationships, unpacking common relationship issues like communication, forgiveness, personality traits, love languages, and much more, all to help you live your best. Welcome to Logic versus Emotion, Season 1, Episode 6. I'm your host, Aquanette, also known as Solace, and today we're interviewing Jamaal Kinley. We are discussing domestic violence, specifically female to male physical abuse, and also paternal parental rights. If this episode benefits you, please subscribe, like, and share. Thank you for listening. Okay. We are ready. Oh my gosh. And before we get into anything, I would like for you to tell us about yourself first. Who is Jamaal Kinley? I met you at the Improv. I want to talk just a little bit about that first encounter, if you don't mind.
Let's start here. And this happens all the time, and this is part of who I am. Most of the time when people meet me, they say my name wrong. It's Jamaal and it's Jamaal. So we'll start there.
Okay, thank you.
That's part of who I am, what I've been experiencing for the last, I guess, 40 years or so.
And you know
I
what?
Remember hearing my name.
I knew that.
Yeah, I know you did. I know.
Jamaal Kinley. I got it. So, Jamaal, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Jamaal Kinley?
Well, the first thing I would say is I am a toxic positive person, okay? And we can dig into that later. I am a happy person, and bad things do happen, but hopefully I can figure out a way out of it. That's the way I look at life. I would say that's my essence, that right there.
Awesome. Give us a little bit of your demographics.
My demographics?
Yes.
Well, I'll just tell you, I am a 43-year-old father, husband, friend, son, brother. I am all those things to someone, and I will say, I don't know, I'm a loan officer. I am a real estate guy, so I do real estate. I'm a notary. You know, I like to know a lot of things, and I'm narrowing down some of the things that I love to do because I am a lifetime student, I would say, too. So
I hear that a lot.
Yeah, just in general, you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good way to be. Like, never stop learning.
I hope not. I hope even for those individuals that would think that they don't, I'm sure they still are. It's a good thing. Let me ask you if I can get a little more specific with those demographics. Where were you born?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Have you lived anywhere else?
I have not. I've only lived in Cincinnati, Ohio area.
Okay.
Like Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati, Ohio. Let's just say it like that. So.
Okay. Yeah. Where did you graduate from?
Hughes High School.
Oh my gosh, so did I.
Yes.
We have that in common.
I came out in 99.
Okay.
I was actually supposed to come out in 97, but I started school early and I got held back twice.
Okay, we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Oh, okay. Well, the first time is we moved from Cincinnati Public to Loveland School District, and the grading scale shifted. So it went from a 10-point grading scale to where anything after, I believe, a 69 was a felon. So I went to that, and from my understanding, my mom chose to hold me back.
Okay.
With how it was presented to me, but I'm in second grade, so what else are you gonna go by? Right.
Yeah. Okay, so you graduated from Hughes. What about college?
Now college grad, was a college dropout. So I went to college at University of Cincinnati for maybe 2.5, 3 years, and I dropped out of college, became a father,
Mm-hmm.
So,
But you went back?
yeah, I went back, let's see, 11 years ago. So when I was like 32.
Okay. Okay.
So I went back like 10 years later, and I made it a mission this time that I was going to not only finish, but be successful. But this time around, I went back to just get my associate's degree to kind of decide where I want to go from there. And I thought about going back for a 4-year degree, but I had my hand in so many things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lifetime student, but I didn't want to do it in school. So
Understood. And some people don't.
yeah. Yep. So I was in jewelry. That's when I first started jewelry. Funny story. So I used to have long hair.
Oh,
So
please send me a pic of that.
my hair used to be like past my shoulders. Mother Nature sought other plans for me. I started
Okay.
losing my hair when I was about 22 or 23.
Oh, wow. Okay. I have to say this. I'd like to see you with long hair. But I like you with the bald head too. It works for you.
I was lucky my hair was brown.
Right. you, Jamaal, you have a nice shaped head.
Yes, no, for sure. Anything could have happened. But I hit my head a lot. So, yeah, anything could have been up there. I could have had the meat pack. I could have had any of that. But yeah, I was blessed with a nice round head. I ain't gonna lie. That's why I don't complain, right? You know,
Right.
that's one of the simple luxuries of life that I can enjoy, right?
Absolutely.
I have a nice shaved head, right? That's to me,
Add
you know,
that
the
to your
sim-
list
the
of
simple
values.
things.
Right.
The simple things. That's like sprinkles on ice cream.
Now, you finished with college, and did you have any other careers, or were you always in real estate and finance?
No, I did a lot.
Okay.
So,
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Have you found yourself? Is this you? Is
oh,
this
I'm
your
here.
purpose?
Well, I think finding myself is not a good description. I think I am on a clearer path to my destination.
Okay.
I think that's a better way to phrase it, because you always finding new things. Right?
Okay.
So I'm now clearly on the same ship
Okay.
versus jumping in different vehicles now. So I have a clear path now.
And that's a good feeling. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you graduate from UC, you did a couple of careers, you're now on the right path.
Didn't graduate from UC. Yeah, when I went back to school, I went to Cincinnati State.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Yeah. So I didn't go back to the University of Cincinnati.
Okay. And you mentioned that you're a brother. How many siblings do you have, and where do you fall?
One brother, and I'm 3 years and 1 month the younger.
Okay. Aw, Jamil's the baby boy.
Yeah, I am the younger. I am the younger of the two brothers, and we're complete opposites.
And your parents?
Nope. Single mother household. It was fun though. So.
Okay. All right. And what community did you grow up in? If you went to Hughes, I'm guessing you were somewhere around the Avondale, Mount Auburn area.
No, Hughes became a magnet school. So it was 5 different programs, and it didn't matter where you lived at.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I lived up on the east side of town in Kinley Heights.
Oh, okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So now let me go into what I found so attractive about you, if you don't mind. I have to tell people how we met.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fun story.
I go into improv. What's the name of the place? It's in Clifton.
Cincinnati Improv.
Okay. Gonna hang out with my friends, and there is Jamaal working the snack counter. And as I enter the door, then we connect eyes. He is so positive. He's got the biggest smile on his face, and not to mention he looks like my friend Terry. So that's who I think I run into. He's just smiling and waving, and I said, "Oh my God, Terry!"
And I say, "Yeah, I'm Terry."
With an eye.
Yeah, I'm Terry.
He starts going into improv.
Remember, you fired me.
Right. And then I get so confused because I do have.
And you fired Tina. and you fired James. I
What?
don't know how you fired all of us.
Actually, it was a Michael and a Terry.
Yes.
It was a
See?
female Terry. You are correct. And it threw me. You were just improving, but it seemed so close and so natural. And I said, "Do you know me? What just happened?"
Yeah, but let's clarify. We do not. I've never met you before, and I'm
No,
really not Terry.
that's right. This is Jamaal Kinley, but that is the start of our relationship. And we later have a conversation, and you shared with me something which leads us to this interview now. You
Uh-huh.
shared with me that you were in a relationship before and you were abused.
Oh yeah, it was wild times. Yep.
Right. So I was talking to you about this podcast and how we talk about childhood trauma and how that impacts us in adulthood if we don't work on healing from that. And I asked you to be a guest and you agreed. So
Yes.
thank you so much for that. I guess let's go into this situation here. I do want you to feel comfortable enough being open, uninhibited, candid, telling this story from your perspective,
For sure.
only holding back what you choose to hold back, but with the purpose of listeners learning something. One thing I can say, as we already shared with individuals, is how positive you are. And I'm thinking, yes, you had this negative experience in life, but wow, look at you. And that's what intrigued me. Like, this individual is so positive, and for me, that is so attractive. So naturally, I had to invite you to be a guest and tell your story. So let me ask you a couple of questions. Let's start from the beginning. How did you meet?
At work.
Okay. What
Yeah.
attracted you?
I don't know. I think probably wildness, because I was 20, and a lot of people that have known me, and it's just interesting, that I'm the same, but I'm more focused on the decisions that I make now.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas she probably was wild, which she was, and I was kind of wild. So I think that's what it was. And then it turned into a wild relationship.
Okay. Now, I don't want
So that's
to.
why I'm not mad, because I know I brought it on myself. It was like
Mm.
I knew this was a possibility. It's like playing Russian roulette, right?
Oh,
If you play, it can happen. So don't be surprised. So I cannot blame nobody but myself.
okay.
And that's what it is for me, because I love who I am today, and what had to happen in the past has to contribute to who you are today. So how can I really be mad at the situation,
Mm.
right?
Right.
Now, would I wish that on anybody? No, I wouldn't. And but it happened, and like we grow.
Amen.
We grow.
Amen,
Grow.
Jamil.
Sometimes stuff got to get tore up to start anew and grow.
To
So
build
I,
again.
I I ain't even mad. I have no ill will.
Okay. Now,
Zero.
one thing I skipped in this, the question about your demographics was, what's your spiritual life like? And do you think that if you had a spiritual life, how did that impact your growth?
I did. I grew up in church,
Okay.
and I think it contributed to me being a well-rounded individual, to give me kind of a good moral compass. Whether I do not go to church now at all. However, I appreciated the experience again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mr. Toxic Positive.
yeah, the experience, had to have impacted,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was a good impact, even in ways you may have found it negative from time to time, because it was a judgmental environment. But something I still have to understand, which I tell people too, you can separate the people from the church. So I understand that too.
So you meet, she's wild.
She was Caucasian. She was a white lady.
Okay, and now why did you say that?
Well, I'm just saying I'm just since you was kind of describing who I am, I'm just putting everything in the context, whether it
Okay,
has any bearing on the conversation at all. That's just just a part of the conversation.
okay, and I can see that it probably is relevant. Give us demographics. Where was she raised?
She's older than me, so she's 6 years older than me.
Okay, and do you think that impacted your relationship?
Like the age thing,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess maybe because it's one of those things like I really never thought about until like she was unreasonable, and I would think like, man, I thought women are supposed to mature faster than men. That's usually the only time
Mm.
it really kind of clicked to me. That is the outlook that, in my experience, that was incorrect in my situation.
Okay. So give me the situation where the abuse first starts.
I don't know. I would say it used to just be, it would be more of like, I guess you would say verbal. But like, we probably would yell at each other though.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I didn't say I'm void from not yelling at her. I'm sure I've yelled and cussed her out for sure.
Okay.
Now you got to think too. I grew up in a single parent household. I don't really know what that looked like, except like maybe my grandparents. You know what I mean?
Mm. You know what? I do think that that is a factor, Jamel, because I grew up, had various environments. In my youth, there was my parents, my grandparents. We were taken, separated, put into foster care. Then there's periods where I'm in an orphanage, and then I am adopted by a single mother. So you're right. I am not used to arguing. So it's a dynamic that in a relationship I'm not accustomed to. So I feel like it's very unordinary and almost dysfunctional because I'm not used to it. So I'm glad you said that. I hadn't looked at it like that before. It's disappointing to me to experience it. I feel like it's, to me, a sign that something's wrong, but that's because I was in an environment where there was no one to argue with. So thank you for pointing that out.
Well, the only person I really argued with was my brother, but that was it. Me
Mm-hmm.
and my mom and I tell you a funny story. So I told you I grew up in church, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I just kind of we can jump back if you want to get back conscious. But so when I was like 17, remember I told you I had long hair, so I used to have braids and ponytails and afros, just all kind of whatever to do with my hair. I had long curly hair, so I used to always have to take my braids out before we go to church. So I didn't want to take them out, so I finally told my mom, I'm like, I ain't going to church no more. And I was like 17. She was like, nah, come on. Sister Irene waiting on us because my mom didn't have no cars. We had to get a ride. I was like, I ain't going to church no more.
Mm.
And she was like, come on. I'm like, I'm good. I was like, I ain't going.
Did you have that autonomy in your household where you could make that decision?
I did at that point.
Okay.
So I kind of made the decision because it's not like I was a bad child and I got in trouble and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like I just like I ain't doing it. I think I may have like 6 more months if I was gonna be 18 or something like that. I don't know. I was like, I ain't doing it.
Okay.
So she got mad at me. She threw her purse at me.
Oh.
Went and jumped on me.
Oh, wow.
Started hitting me. And my brother and my cousin in the back laughing.
She hit you? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Were you in shock? So if this has never happened before, you're in shock.
Yeah. So she was so mad. And then so she left and went to church and we was all good after that.
Okay. So you took that beating. Now,
Yeah, I
so
was good.
let me ask you another question before we digress.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking it from the story you shared. You went to church, but it wasn't for yourself.
Yeah. If the choice was bestowed upon me, I wouldn't have went.
Ever. Okay. So, where was the point where you realized this has gone from a normal couple disagreement to abuse?
I didn't. Right.
So it was sort of slow and progressive?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? You know, other people get mad at the relationship and stuff like that, but I always pointed out, like, I'm not forced to be in this, right? So this is, I could choose to not be here.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the consequences go with, the consequences go with it. But I can choose to not be here.
Right.
So
But
how can I give her the sole blame if I can choose to not be here?
true. Now, I'm not saying you blamed her. What I'm
Yeah.
asking is, when was that epiphany that what
Okay.
you guys were experiencing was abusive?
I'll tell you. Yeah, probably about 10 years into it.
Okay.
Really.
Now, was it always abusive for that 10 years?
I wouldn't say the whole thing was. It wasn't like we was fighting every day. It wasn't like that. Right? It just got real physical. And I couldn't bring myself to, like, fight her.
Okay.
Like,
So give me an example of what was your worst situation?
when I got hit in the head with a sword, for sure.
With a sword?
Yeah.
Okay. What happened?
I think that was definitely the worst. Yeah, no, I was leaving the situation. I was getting out.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of fighting, I just leave.
But what started the fight?
I don't know. I just know the result was I was leaving. I don't know what it was. I don't know what we were fighting about.
And what was different this time that you decided to leave?
No, I've left plenty of times. Like, I lived out of my car.
Wow.
So what? Like I had some stuff there, but I had most of it just because I was out. I would say the majority of it, I was always ready to go.
Wow. So what types of, I guess, factors shifted for you? It's been 10 years of this, but you finally decide, I'd rather live in my car than go back home.
So it was a mixture of events. There was no clear path. Most of it was all chaotic, to put it quite simple.
Okay. But give us something. You don't remember that last argument?
Well, I remember the argument when I remember the first time I said to her, like, hey, it gotta be a better way for us to resolve these conflicts.
Okay, so
instead of fighting and screaming. That was probably about 10 years into. I remember having these conversations, like, really start having that, like, we gotta figure out a better way to fight and screaming, yelling.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's when it clicked, right when I was like 30. Like, it gotta be, we can't fight all the time.
And what would be some of these conflicts? Bills, the child.
It could have been something as simple as I was shaving or something because she think I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be, or it would be something where she just, I don't know.
Were there ever any times that
it would be something? It's just always something.
So you're saying that you both could just be in the house doing your own things. You would go in the bathroom and start shaving, and she would start a fight over that?
Oh yeah. Why are you shaving? Now, mind you, like, this is also, there's certain points in my life where I had to maintain, like, good grooming standards and not go months without shaving my beard or shaving my head, because I've done that too before.
So
as well.
Does she feel like you're changing?
That was, I think, a big deal. We started to grow apart.
Okay.
Where, like, it would be money situation, like, hey, look, let's start a budget, right? So you can see where the money. You ain't got to believe me. We can see it. We can see it on paper. She say budgets are stupid.
Okay.
Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Somebody tell me budgets are stupid.
Okay. And
that didn't make sense to me.
So then what would be your response to that?
I would be that may have started a conversation. Like, I'm trying to understand, like, how you gonna say budgets are stupid? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm sure you seeing the money's here, and I'm telling you it's not. And I say, well, let's do a budget, and I'll show you where it go, right? If someone says you spending money the way you ain't supposed to, or something's not there, like, all right, let's put the numbers out there, see what they add up to be. Would that be a way to validate or disprove one way or another?
Okay.
And that would be kind of a big deal. So, little stuff like that. But yeah, we definitely probably had a disagreement about that. Now, what it resulted to, I don't know.
Well, you said one of these arguments resulted in you being hit with a sword.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what started. I don't know what was the initial reason for that particular one, because it was so many. So I don't know what the reason was.
So what happened that day with the sword? You're arguing, you're getting ready to leave.
Yes.
And what happens? I presume you're walking out the door?
I was gathering so where the place was, it was a bi-level. So as soon as you walk in the door, you can go up the steps or you can go down the steps.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So my things were at the bottom of the steps, like when you walk in the door.
Okay.
I went down to pick up some clothes, and then I just feel a sword hit my head.
And the back of the head, like the nape, the apex, the forehead?
The side, right above my ear.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I never felt so much blood running down my face.
Oh, so hold on a second. Was this sword sharpened?
Well, it wasn't. Thank God, I guess it wasn't that sharp, because it was hurled from the top of the steps. So it was like a blunt object hit.
Okay.
So it's about a 2-inch gash on the right-hand side of my head above my ear to where it hit me.
So she threw it down
the
steps at you.
Mm-hmm.
It hit you, and then what happens?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm in shock.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I take just one of the clothes out of my head and just put it over my head, and then I get in the car and I leave. I just left everything behind.
Right, that was probably wise, Jamaal.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta just,
even in that moment, instead of freaking out and like attacking her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why escalate the situation, right?
Right.
I've talked to a lot of people. I would say the majority of people would have taken a different approach. Just from the times I've explained this story, they would have took a different approach than me. The majority of people.
Right.
So, it's one of those things. I was fortunate enough to, even in the face of a terrible situation, I could at least have some foresight of not to escalate it and make it worse.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Jamaal? I'm glad that you didn't. And then, what happened after that? I do hope. Well, I'm not going to tell you what I hope. What did you do?
I went to a hotel.
Okay.
And then got cleaned up, and then went to work.
Why did you not report her?
I don't know. It actually never crossed my mind, to be honest with you. So I don't have it never crossed my mind.
I wonder why that is with men. You don't realize the right to be safe in your own home. Look, I'm not.
It was her house, though.
No, didn't you live together?
Kinda. That's another.
Okay, so let me hold on one second. I had to shift. Let me say this, Jamaal. Okay, what I mean is you have a right to be safe in your person. I'm so glad that you did leave, but these protection laws are for you, for men as well. That's all. Hindsight, would you have done anything any different?
No.
Okay. Well, and that's what's important. I like to always say whatever you feel was most appropriate. I trust your opinion and I support you 100%. I'm so sorry that you had.
That's a good question. I never even. I didn't think. I think I handled it well.
You did. I think that well for yourself, but I also don't think that there's anything wrong with a person being accountable for their bad decisions.
Oh, no, for sure.
So you were harmed, and with that, did have the right to file a police report. So you chose not to. That's fine. My opinion does not matter here nor there, but I'll still say whatever you decided to do in that moment, I trust was right for you. So therefore, I support it, and you're here. Everyone's safe, thank goodness. Because it could have been much, much more serious. I think all the time, I work in criminal law, Jamaal, and I do see some situations where it can be deadly. I'm sure people, they're upset. They don't have the intent to take a life, but it could, and they should be held accountable for that. I do personally believe people should be held accountable for the attempt. That was very dangerous, and had that sword been sharpened, a live sword is what we call it in martial art. That's what y'all doing with a sword, Jamaal? Who in there is taking kung fu?
Nah, this was like, it was more like a decorative sword, like one of those barbarian type swords.
Okay.
So that's what it more was, for decoration than anything else.
Right. It's decoration until it's used as a weapon. Just like,
Sure.
Other things in the household are, no different than a skillet is used for cooking until you put it upside somebody's head. So
No, for sure.
I'm glad you're okay. How long has that been?
I want to say 2014.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's been some time since that event, and you wouldn't change anything. Where are you guys now? Because you do have a child.
Oh, she grown, so we don't have to talk it out.
I hear that.
I mean, I'm not saying that in a mean way either. I will, if I see her, I will speak. I don't have ill will.
Mm-hmm.
If, like, she's talking to my daughter and I'm around her, she asks me a question, I'll answer.
Okay.
So it's not like I said I don't hate her.
Great.
I'm not even. I know, again, a lot of other people find that odd, but I'm okay with it.
No, I don't,
It really
Jamaal.
don't matter.
My children are grown, very grown. We don't need to communicate on a daily basis, but I think they will forever need their parents. And I think that's our responsibility until the end of our time. If there is a need for me to reach out to him and or vice versa, we know that we can, So mine are grown as well, but even as grown children, sometimes there are issues like going to the hospital or higher education, and we want to be supportive. Or sometimes there's just challenges in their life. I say we're still their parents, no matter what. So I personally don't think it ever ends.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't think we have a bad relationship. Her and I have now. I don't think it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's exactly where it needs to be.
Amen. Amen.
That's about all I can sum it up. Is she has her relationship and I have my relationship with her.
Awesome. Now, from that last incident with the sword, did you ever try to reconcile, or was that it?
So that was it.
Okay.
For the most part. But as crazy as it sounds, it wasn't like a complete split, right? Mm-hmm. I was under the impression I could still like hang out over there from time to time. It was like it needed to be a complete cut off, like complete. I ain't gonna say complete communication because we still had a young child then, but very, very limited. Mm-hmm. And then when that was put into place, that's when it really got challenging with my child. So
let me ask you this. Something that I'm hearing now from several men is the female using the child almost as a weapon against the father. Is that what you experienced?
For sure.
Oh, Jamaal, I'm so sorry.
No, and again, right? Like, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
Right? But my daughter is a wonderful person, and I wish she didn't have to experience all that, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But in spite of, she is a beautiful person.
That's great. Let me say that too, in case you share this with your daughter. She should know that in our very first meeting, you brought her up immediately. So I knew that she was someone very, very important and dear to your soul. I'm sure she knows it, but I'll just say it again. Your daddy cares about you.
For sure.
Now, what kind of things did you experience after that with regard to holding your child back? And I'm saying this now, but you tell me if I'm wrong, as a form of emotional abuse. Like, you know what, if he's leaving me, then I'm going to hurt him by not allowing him to have access to his child.
Yes.
And what kinds of things would go on?
Well, it would be, first it started with clear, call those agreements as far as custody agreements.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of whatever, whenever she said so.
And how often would that be? Once a month? Once a year?
It would here. You know what? Now, so that was part of the plan. That was part of her plan too. That before I cut it off, like being over there, she was saying, "Well, if I can come over there and see her there."
Mm-hmm.
So that was part of it too. And then when I was like, "Nah, I should be able to see her without seeing you."
Mm-hmm.
Then it was, I don't know, maybe once a week here and there. It was just kind of
sporadic.
I don't know. It was just spotty. It wasn't no consistency, no rhyme or reason to it.
Okay. And what would that do to you?
Until eventually the courts, huh?
Yeah, how would that impact you in that moment?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, that was tough. And that I understood that this was going to be one of the outcomes of my actions.
Okay, so you predicted that even when you were walking out the door.
Yeah, I knew that would be part of it. Like I say, I knew for sure, but I knew it was highly probable that was going to be part of the problem. That I knew that would be a strong possibility.
Now, you know what? That's interesting to me, just to sort of hone in on the difference in perspectives between a man and a woman, because that would have never crossed my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Do you understand that? Like, that seems so unusual to me.
Separated that your significant other would keep your children away from you.
Yeah, that would have never crossed my mind. Never. And that would hurt me to the core. I really can't imagine how I would feel ever being separated from them. Now, right now, they're grown. Somebody please come get them. No, I'm kidding. But no, that would just crush me. So, Jamaal, again, I am sorry that you and your daughter had that experience. I think that the bond and relationship between parents and children is the greatest, most significant responsibility on this planet. And I mean, that should be a commandment. Thou shalt not separate children from their parents unless they're abusive, you know.
For sure.
But like, that should be the 11th commandment. Like, women, what are you doing? Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Jamaal. And I am sorry, but you know, people like us with our toxic positivity, let's move from that. Before we move forward, how did you remedy that? So for some fathers who are going through that right now, what advice would you give them?
It's just the time and patience. Unfortunately, what I've learned in life, sometimes some problems just need time for the solution.
So I'm taking from your response, you did not use the legal system?
Well, no. So we did, as far as the custody went. So we went from that to, I got her every other weekend. So I would get her Friday night, and I would have to bring her back, I think, Sunday morning was how it started. And then I got her Wednesday night from like 7 to 8 or something like that. I mean, 6 to 8, like 2 hours on a Wednesday night.
Okay. And the courts made this order?
Yeah.
Okay,
Which was frustrating because there was no reason why I shouldn't have got equal. Like, I wasn't asking, I would even pay child support. I just didn't understand why I couldn't have got the exact equal thing.
Meaning,
right? Even I would have paid child support I would still been alright paying child support if I'd have got equal.
Okay. Let me go back a little bit because, again, if we're going to have this conversation, I want to make sure it's helping people. So you did use the legal system.
Yeah.
And what was that process for you?
Yeah, I don't think it was cool. Eventually, I had to fight to get every Thursday, and then I got every Thursday instead of Wednesday. So I was a Wednesday from 7 to 8, but now I actually get to pick her up Thursday evening. So I got every Thursday and then every other weekend. And instead of dropping her off Sunday morning, I can drop her off Sunday night, or I can drop her off at school the following morning.
Okay. So,
and I did all the transportation.
I understand the schedule. What I'm asking you, though, to share with other listeners, specifically male listeners, is what was that process to get there? What was the day that you either picked up the phone, went into a lawyer's office? What did you go through to get even that? I understand you weren't happy with that, but what was that process?
I had an attorney. So
how did you get that attorney?
It wasn't my wife then, but my wife now actually helped me out with it. So when first started, she found an attorney that worked with me. I don't even think the attorney got me everything that I should have got, but that's neither here nor there. And that's what got everything rolling, was that.
Okay. What was the cost?
It's probably like $3,000 to $6,000.
Okay.
This was like, so almost 10 years ago.
Right. Okay. Well, you know what, Jamaal, I'm glad you put up that fight, and I hope that I think about 36% of my listeners are males, and if any of them are having issues with getting access to their children, I hope that they're inspired by your story and that they move forward and use the legal system to get that access that they deserve. Okay. So, this wonderful woman that you have in your life now, tell us about her. How did you guys meet? What does she mean to you?
All right. So, we met at work.
Okay. So, Jamaal has a thing for women at work. Oh, you know what? That is so funny because someone said to me, I was having some issues in a relationship and they would bring up men at work. And that seemed so odd to me. Like, why do you keep bringing that up? And they're like, that's where most affairs take place. And I'm like, what? I go to work to do work. But go ahead. Sure. Jamaal goes to work to me and he meets his wife.
That's just how the stars align.
Okay. But that's great. So you meet her at work. Is it the same job?
No, absolutely not. No.
Okay, you're in a whole different environment.
Well, we're talking like 14 years later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So 13, 14 years later. So it was like a different job for sure.
Okay. What attracted you to her?
That's a good question. I think it was, I don't know.
Hey, Jamaal, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what it was.
It's fair. We'll leave this part of your life sacred as it is. We don't have to go into that. I'm glad, though, if you could just share how happy you are now, and in that 14 years, what was the process for growth for you that you were able to choose differently?
Dealing with my daughter's mother?
Yes. Yeah, what changed in you?
I understood that it has to be a better way of living than what I'm living through. It just had to be. And that's why I had to make choices I made with understanding the possible consequences.
Great. And so is it okay with you to talk about your development? And how do you go from that epiphany? It's almost, I love this because at least you have a spiritual background, So I'm going to use this story and let's see if it was similar, if you can relate to it. Remember the story in the Bible of the prodigal son?
Vaguely.
Okay, so a man, very wealthy man, has two sons, and one decides and actually even says to his father, just die already so I can get my inheritance and do what I want to do. He leaves the home, he takes his inheritance and he squanders it. And eventually he is eating with the pigs. And one day, though, he has an epiphany and he comes to himself and says, basically, it can be better. I can be better. I don't have to live like this. Even if I were my father's servant, they live better than this. And he decides to return home. Or basically, he changes his ways. And when he gets home, he's embraced. So I'm looking at this, the shift that you've made, the transition from the 20-year-old Jamaal to the 30-something-year-old Jamaal, and I'm asking you to share with the listeners the action steps that you took.
Oh, well, I had to start making better choices. I don't know. I think I just understood that I couldn't be the same person that I was. Like I used to play, nothing, in my opinion, it's not that anything's wrong with it, but I used to play video games. So I was probably like 32, and I just said like, no, this is just taking up too much of my time. I need to be doing something different, and I haven't played on really since.
Okay.
So I just grew. I don't know what it was.
Did you start hanging around different people?
No.
Exposure. Okay.
Well, possibly yes. So I was going to school at the time.
Okay.
So I just started school. So I got laid off from the job that I was at, and I told I did have a plan. I said if I got laid off, I had money saved up, and I'm like, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to school, and then when I go back to work or do whatever, I'll be in a better position. So that's exactly what I did. That's when I went back to school.
Awesome, great.
And so I already had my mind made up that I was gonna do that if X happened.
Okay.
I think about 6 months into school, my mind shifted, and that was it.
Okay.
Maybe 3 months into school,
Mm-hmm.
my mind shifted.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you again. So would you say then that the shift could be attributed to things that you were exposed to in a learning environment?
Oh yeah. Possibly.
Okay.
I think it was just, really, honestly, I just think it was just, I don't know if I was meditating or what. It's just having a moment. I just had like an epiphany, like, hey, things have to be different.
Great.
I don't know, like, I can't say X led to Y, but I know it was just a moment in time that I actually started journaling, so I know exactly when it happened.
Oh, wow.
When that shift happened. So I have I call them thought books. I have them all over. I just write down stuff.
Awesome. Jamaal, I have a journal as well. I love that because occasionally I flip back and whoo, I see my growth. And it is a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yes.
That's amazing. So when did you become Mr. Toxic Positivity? Or were you always that way?
No. I will say I've been positive I will say I've been the majority positive. Like, that's always been I will say my foundation. But I would say over the last probably 10 years, it has grown to be a monstrosity of positivity.
Amen. And what would you attribute that to?
Everything. I guess my way of empathizing is when I see someone in a situation that I truly, from just seeing it, think it's not a great situation. So if the way I see it, I feel that way. Imagine being in it, I would assume it would feel worse. That makes me grateful for what I have.
So gratitude. And you know what's so funny? Because in meditation, the first step to shifting from a negative mindset to a positive mindset, they say, is gratitude. And I tried it and it does work. And once I get started on that path of, let me just think of one thing I'm grateful for at this moment. And I might struggle, for the first few minutes. And then I can start writing that down and just continue and continue. I can have 2-3 pages of things that I am grateful for. And then my whole attitude and perspective about myself, my environment, my community, my world, it shifts. But I think I'm like you as well. Toxic positivity.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, for sure. I mean, just going through all those different things, definitely sucks in the moment. Like, I don't want anybody to get like that twisted, that it was sucking in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I was not enjoying getting hit in the head with it. So I didn't get hit in the head with it. So I was like, I'm glad this happened.
Right.
In the moment, it was terrible. It was terrible. Right, but the moment has passed, and as I'm able to reflect, I can extract the good from it, versus having to dwell on it as a negative experience in my life and let that hold me or keep me in some type of stagnation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the way I'm able to view it.
Right. And I think you're spot on. It's like with the laws of the universe, right? Are you familiar with that?
I've heard.
Okay. So I think there's one basically that expresses that law of balance and respecting the fact that at some point there's highs and there's lows, but to be optimistic that even in those, like they're necessary for your growth. And it's inevitable. You can't escape it. There will be highs, there will be lows, but when you're in that low, recognize that it's only temporary, based on that particular law of the universe. So that's good stuff, Jamaal. Now, so tell me this, is there any advice you would have for the male listeners in overcoming your struggle with the female?
I would say, do it on your time, right? Like, you can't go by what anybody else tell you. It's time for you to do X, right? You gotta do it when you ready.
Okay.
So you can have a successful break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the things I would look at. Also, I mean, it's definitely not okay, right? I'm not suggesting that you should stay in it as long as I did either, right? I want to make that very clear, because it was dangerous. It could have 100% been worse.
Yeah.
I understand that. It could 100% have been worse than what it turned out to be. However, I was fortunate enough, which again, reflecting makes me be grateful for what I have, because the situation I was in could have been so much worse. Right? That's how I look at it. Like, but none of that happened. It didn't unfold to be worse than what it was. So why not look at that as like, all right, that's how I think that's the way people should look at it, right? It sucks, right? Get out as soon as you can. I get it, but you have to get out when you ready to get out, when it's up to you, right? It's up to you to make that decision.
So is there any advice that you would have for a young man that he's 20 years old? You have a daughter, but let's say you had a son, or even with your daughter, and now they're starting relationships. What advice would you give to someone young about avoiding what you experienced?
Don't ever feel like you need to be with someone.
That's good.
All right.
That's good.
That's what I think. Don't ever feel like you need, or don't ever feel like that person needs to be with you either.
Amen.
Right. It should be you want and they want, right?
A desire.
Yeah. I think that's the easiest description of it.
Okay.
And I think I'm making it easier for my daughter to understand how a man is supposed to treat her, so she understands, she know what to expect. If somebody doesn't treat her like me, she know not to deal with that person. So help giving her a way out of not experiencing what I experienced. Right? When I was rolling the dice, I roll dice.
Okay. So let me ask you this, Jamaal. You gave her advice about how a man should treat her. Did you give her any advice about how she should, in turn, treat and respond to her man?
Mm-hmm. We do. We have little conversations about that too. Yeah, I always start with, there's never a time that either one of y'all should be putting y'all hands on each other.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And don't think because I didn't put my hands on your mom, you shouldn't give a man, you shouldn't put your hands on a man either.
Okay.
Right? You shouldn't put him in that position. So I have those type of conversations.
And how did you mold or shape her to deal with conflict? It's one thing to say, hey, baby girl, don't put your hands on a man. But as we know, in adulthood, relationships can be quite frustrating. So did you give her advice on alternatives? What do you do as a young woman when you're, pissed off to the highest level of passivity?
Yeah, no, leave the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get yourself out the fire, right? Cool down.
Good.
Right? Think about the situation.
Okay.
Right? She's fortunate enough to have her own place, so anybody have them leave, right? They need to go.
Okay.
So I mean that's really the main part right there. If it gets to that point, because nobody wants to wind up in jail.
Right. Or hurt.
Yeah. Or hurt.
There's going to be some challenges in a relationship, but I'd have to say, over my years of experience, challenge is one facet, and then to the far extreme is hurt. And when you're getting to hurt, that's my limit. It's one thing to say, I'm uncomfortable, this is a challenge, but then if you are consistently and repetitively hurting me, you're destroying my trust in the relationship, in you, in myself, that's sort of when it's time for me to go. I have no more to give. My personal advice to people would be to know that line. You're moving past discomfort to trauma. That's something unrecoverable. So, gosh, Jamaal, I want to thank you for your time. I want to ask you two more quick things before we go. Is there anything you would like to share with listeners that maybe I didn't ask?
Okay.
Like, you know what? I want to share this, or I want to talk about that.
Well, yeah, I will say out of, I think one of my greatest accomplishments to date at this point in time is the relationship I have with my daughter.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
That is beautiful.
Just looking out in the world, it's not something you see often.
Mm-hmm.
And she shares that with me as well, that a lot of her friends do not have a father.
Mm.
And
wait a minute, Jamaal.
I think about.
Let's be clear. They have a father. They wouldn't be here.
Let me put present.
Right. And that is a shame, especially if it's because the mother withheld access to the child. That's a shame. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So just to be clear, there is guys who don't want to be in their child's life, right?
Right.
And whether it's by choosing not to be there, or something happens where they can't be there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think too, we got to make sure, just as men, we got to change the narrative where it has to just be an overwhelmingly number of us doing the right thing, where there is no denying it.
Right. That's right, baby. You better go get your children.
Yeah. So let's not, we know it exists. Like, women holding a child over a man's head is taboo. It's untalked about, right? But everybody have heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever talked to anybody who has not had at least one encounter with someone that has had that situation happen.
Wow. I think that's so sad. I think that's going to be the gem in this conversation that we're having, that if there's men out there that don't have access to their children, despite the challenges that you went through and other men like you. So I have brothers and friends that fought for custody of their children. And I'm glad that they did. I'm with you that I wish more would. This legal system is here for all of us, male and female. So more men need to trust it. And I'm not sure why they don't. I don't know if that stems from, especially the black man's relationship with law enforcement.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if it's that.
I did think that I didn't get a fair shake in court, for sure. So I understand that.
Right.
Right. I think because I had to fight to even get a full night. So you got to think I got it every Thursday, and then every Thursday and every other weekend. I had to fight to get that.
Wow. And now I know why my ex-husband would tell me thank you all the time. And I didn't know why. I have a sister who was divorced, and they have shared parenting. He lives right around the corner, and the children are with her 1 week, with him 1 week. They still care for their children as a whole, and that seems normal to me.
Sure.
I'm shocked when I'm running into men and I'm like, you haven't seen your child since what? Like, would you even recognize your child if they were standing in front of you cross paths? I just can't imagine it. So again, I have to say, I think that is the gem in this conversation that you and I are having right now, that other men would be inspired, and despite the challenges, go get your children. I know I fight for mine, baby. I throw everything I got at it. So I'm so glad that you did that, and I'm so glad that it was worth it for you. Again, even though it's not what you wanted, I'm glad that you are in this healthy, thriving relationship right now, and that you have so much abundance of joy around you. I love your energy. I think that will stay with me for the rest of my life. Jamaal Kinley and his toxic positivity.
Amen to that.
Don't you ever change that. Now, go ahead and share with us what's going on with you, because you are at the Improv. Share that with the listeners if they want to come and check Jamaal Kinley out. What do you have going on?
Well, so the Improv is a fairly new endeavor. So I would say probably in about maybe a year's time, I'll actually be performing. I'm actually going for it to actually be performing there. Just something, just something different, right? Help increase my stage presence. Really is the goal. Wherever it leads, it leads. But yeah, so I'm in Improv Cincinnati. I think my next showcase is not till June at some point, but I'll keep you posted.
Do, Jamaal, absolutely do.
Yeah.
And of course, I plan on attending.
Yeah, but I mainly do loans. Loans in the real estate guy. I'm a loan officer.
Amen.
That's what I mainly do. Yes.
Tell people about that. So if they're looking for a loan, mortgage loan.
You can find me on Instagram at Jamaal Kinley.
Okay, awesome. So, now, is this a good time?
Not hard to find.
Is this a good time for buying a home?
I always say, it's always a good time to get real estate.
That's what I say.
It's not always a good time to sell real estate.
Got it. That's what I say. I'm talking to a couple of my friends like, no, it's a bad time. They say don't buy it now. I'm like, it is never a bad time to own some property. Like, what are you talking about? So.
Yeah. Now, if the thing is, right, you just got to make sure you get a good real estate professional.
That's right. And you're the good one that they find it where again?
At
Instagram?
Jamaal Kinley on Instagram or KinleyLoans.com.
Awesome. Spell that for them.
KinleyLoans.com.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll make sure to spell that out on the podcast. Jamaal, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything that you shared with us today. I mean, we're friends, so we'll be in touch.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Jamaal, I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.